Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. Insurance regulators likely to have advised companies to limit business generated via banks to 50%. Insurance stocks decline in trade. Both the Finance Minister and the IRDA chairman have expressed concerns over mis-selling of insurance policies to the bancassurance route. That's an exclusive. Indian equities take a beating on worries that the American central bank may slow down on rate cuts. Volatile crude oil prices add to the drag. The Sensex drops over 1,000 points and the Nifty slips over 1%. The rupee weakens, touching a new record low.
There was a reason why The Economist said that it was the Everest of corporate turnarounds. I think what we've achieved in a little over 2 years is significant.
Air India CEO Campbell Wilson says the airline's revival will be the Everest of corporate turnarounds, but seeks patience. Says the ambitious plan to upgrade legacy fleet will take more time and cost more than the budgeted $400 million. Claims airfares have gone down amidst consolidation in the sector. That's a CNBC TV 18 exclusive. Israel accuses Hezbollah of violating the ceasefire and fires missiles at southern Lebanon. A Hezbollah MP says Israel violated the ceasefire by attacking civilians returning to their homes. At least 1 million people without power supply across Ukraine after Russia's overnight missile attacks on energy infrastructure. Moscow claims to have destroyed 25 Ukrainian drones overnight. Sources say a deal is imminent between Aster DM Healthcare and Blackstone-owned Care Hospitals. The deal is likely to boost the expansion plans if Aster DM Private Equity continues to bet big on healthcare in India. Winter session of Parliament disrupted for the third day as the opposition continues to demand a discussion of the Adani controversy. Both houses adjourned for the day after the new MPs, including Priyanka Gandhi, sworn in. The Competition Commission of India orders a probe into Google after a complaint by Vinzo, an online gaming company. Vinzo alleges Google limits access to gaming apps, especially ones offering skills-based games. Also on the show, China critic and fiscal hawk meet US President-elect Donald Trump's economy team as he prepares for a second term in office. Well, let's start with the market action. We saw deep cuts on Dalal Street today. The Sensex lost nearly 1,200 points. The Nifty fell below the 24,000 mark in what was a broad-based sell-off. Financial stocks led the decline, down by about 400 points. That's the Nifty Bank, for you 1.5% lower for both the Sensex and the Nifty. That was the story. The rupee, meanwhile, continues to weaken against the dollar, moving closer to its record low. That's the story as far as the rupee is concerned. And as far as the bonds, 10-year bonds also perked up in trade today. But on to a CNBC TV 18 exclusive. The insurance regulator is likely to have advised insurers to limit business generated via banks to 50%. Sources say the regulator may also consider imposing a cap on the parent bank's share in the insurance bancassurance business. Yash is here with more details. Yash, take us through what has been discussed and what the regulator would like the sector to do.
Well, Shireen, very recently, the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman as well as IRDA chairperson voiced their views with respect to a potential threat of mis-selling as far as the bank assurance channel or sale of insurance products through bank is concerned. What we've been given to understand from our sources at the insurance regulatory body is that the concern is not just limited to the mis-selling part of it or forced selling part of it, but IRDAI, the insurance regulator, is also concerned about the growing share, focus or concentration of business which insurance companies are receiving from the bank assurance channel or through banks. What we've been given to understand from our sources is that the insurance regulator is of the view that ideally the bank share as a part of total business of insurance companies should not be more than 50%. The regulator multiple number of times in the last 6 months has also advised insurers to reduce their focus and hence concentration as far as the bank assurance channel is concerned. What we've been given to understand further on this matter is that the IRDAI is likely to monitor the situation in terms of how the bank sales shape up in the coming months if they do not come down, then it could also consider introducing a glide path to insurance companies, which will help them to bring down the share of banks as far as sale of insurance companies is concerned. That's one concern. Other concern for the regulator is also the share of parent banks as far as the total bancassurance pie itself is concerned. The elevated levels currently concern the regulator here, and the IRDA is of the view that that should also come out. That is the share of parent banks as a part of total bancassurance channel. If it does not come out or come down from those elevated levels, then the IRDA could also consider putting a cap as far as the share of parent banks as a part of total bancassurance is concerned.
Mis-selling, and I would say in added or contributed in indirect ways of increased cost of borrowing for the customers. So banks will have to look at it.
The banca channel is a very useful channel, but of late, a lot of ills have crept into the system. I think we all need to sit together, thrash out that so that we restore that confidence, and it should become a distribution model which is low cost. You don't need to run after, chasing customers.
And staying with that story, SBI Life, Max Financial Services and HDFC Life have maintained that they have not received any directive or communication from the IRDAI. In separate statements, all three insurers said that regulatory changes of such significance are typically preceded by detailed industry consultation. Now, the big newsmaker this evening, Air India CEO Campbell Wilson says the revival of the airline will be the Everest of corporate turnaround. Speaking exclusively to CNBC TV 18, Wilson also sought patience, saying the management will need 5 years to get the airline back in shape. Wilson also said the ambitious plan to upgrade legacy fleet will take more time and cost more than the budgeted $400 million. Take a look.
The investment that we're making in turning around Air India is significant. It will take some time to turn around the airline from a financial perspective, but I think if you look at our reports, we are making very, very good progress. And so I think we always said that this would be at least a 5-year turnaround. There was a reason why we said that it would be a 5-year turnaround. There was a reason why the economists said that it was the Everest of corporate turnarounds. I think what we've achieved in a little over 2 years is significant. It's certainly not finished. We are as impatient as anyone to bring it to closure, but I think progress is occurring. We committed more than $400 million to the retrofit program back in 2022. We also selected the seats back in 2022. There is a regulatory design, certification, and then subsequently manufacturing process that we need to go through. And that is where the supply chain constraint has hit us. The 787 aircraft, the first of the retrofit ship sets will come in April. It'll take a few months to install and be certified. First aircraft hopefully in service by October next year. The 777s will have a refresh next year, but then go for a full retrofit starting in 2026.
So that $400 million that you spoke of, that was committed as far as the retrofit program was concerned. Do you believe you may need to now allocate more capital towards the retrofit exercise?
Well, the sad fact is yes.
We're going through a second phase of consolidation. The last one we saw was in the early 2000s or the mid 2000s. But, what does that mean in terms of pricing power for airlines like yourself? And also on the back of the merger and the integration, what are the cost efficiencies that we're talking about? I mean, what does that realistically mean in terms of margin improvement for Air India?
Well, there's a whole regulatory and legal structure that you need to maintain if you're an independent organisation or an independent airline. There's duplication of many positions. There aren't the economies of scale that you can enjoy when you're a 300 aircraft airline. So clearly there are efficiencies, and we've realised some, and there are more that we wish to realise. And that was part of the motivation for putting the businesses together. But I wouldn't want to give you particular figures. With respect to pricing power, I'd refer you to an article that was literally just released by IATA, which traces how airfares have tracked relative to the CPI and relative to oil prices, not just in India, but in many countries. And what you will find that if you index back to 2015 or 2019, airfares have gone down. And not only gone down, but gone down dramatically relative to inflation and relative to oil price. So I think just the competitive dynamic of aviation and the market will mean that airfares will remain affordable, and of course we want to fill our planes. So there's always going to be a benefit to the customer in that respect.
Well, moving to the big international stories, Israel has claimed that the ceasefire with Hezbollah has been violated. This comes hours after the Israeli army reportedly attacked 6 areas in southern Lebanon. However, there was no official confirmation from Israel or Hezbollah. A 60-day ceasefire was brokered by the US and France between the two warring entities. As per the deal, Israeli forces were supposed to withdraw from southern Lebanon's border. And staying with West Asia, Israel continues to deepen its offensive in Gaza. Reports have said that Israeli military attacked a refugee camp in central Gaza, killing at least 9 people. Israeli forces also killed 4 Palestinians in a drone attack in another refugee camp in Khan Yunis. Residential buildings were also struck in many parts of the war-torn enclave. From one war-torn region to another, Ukraine claims that Russia launched a massive attack on the country's power and energy infrastructure. Russian missile attacks were reportedly seen across the country, triggering major power outages in cities. Ukrainian authorities have said no casualties have been reported so far. In other international news, at least 9 of Donald Trump's cabinet nominees and picks for his White House team have been targeted by bomb threats. The FBI said it was aware of numerous bomb threats as well as swatting incidents. Remember, swatting refers to the act of making hoax calls to attract a police response to the target's home. A White House spokesperson has said US President Joe Biden unequivocally condemned these threats of political violence. And staying with all the action from the US, Trump has picked out his new economic team after vowing the first big tariff imposition of his upcoming presidency, targeting Mexico, China and Canada. Prashant joins us now with more on Trump's top picks for his economy team. Prashant.
So let me just quickly run you through the top sort of 4 or 5 positions here. Treasury Secretary, really top of the line in terms of posts which markets were watching very closely. And mind you, once this appointment came through, markets actually did rally a little bit. The understanding till that point, because other appointments had already been happening, and I'll run you through those, but the understanding in markets was that, well, it's all going to be very good for the US, but it's going to be bad for the rest of the world. With Mr. Scott Bessent, who's been nominated for the Treasury Secretary's post, who's a Wall Street veteran, right? He was Trump's biggest ally, or the biggest allies on Wall Street. He's someone who's worked for George Soros' investment firm. And he's someone who's a Wall Street insider, and that's the reason why financial markets, sort of took it very well. His nomination very, very well. In terms of his stance, he favors tariffs as a one-time adjustment. He's hawkish in China. He's also been famously critical of the FOMC. He's actually, made a suggestion that maybe they should get a shadow Fed chair, and in that sense, make the current Fed chair Powell irrelevant in that sense, although he's walked back a little bit from that position since. He's seen as a bit of a fiscal hawk. He's been critical of how the previous Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, used T-bills to fund the government. And that's the other point which markets like, that with him, the fiscal is not going to be a complete runaway. So that's the first one, which is the Treasury Secretary. Scott Bessent essentially is a nominee here. The Commerce Secretary comes next. Howard Lutnick is a longtime Trump friend. He's also, by the way, the CEO of the financial services firm Cantor Fitzgerald. They're, of course, they're a research house plus investment banking services in the US and emerging markets as well. The Commerce Department is important under Mr. Lutnick because it houses 2 important departments. One sets duties on goods the US has determined are unfairly priced or subsidized, which comes into the US, and also it monitors technologies and sensitive tech which needs to be kept out of the reach of countries which the US deems to be adversarial, countries like China. The other 2, the National Economic Council is number 3. Kevin Hassett is was the chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors for 2 years when Trump was president the first time around in 2016. He's long argued for tax cuts, corporate tax cuts. He sort of pushed that through in the first Trump term as well. He'll be responsible for setting the agenda on a wide range of economic policy matters. This is essentially the economic team within the White House, which is going to work closely with other sort of teams. The last one, United States Trade Representative, the USTR, Jamieson Green was Mr. Robert Lighthizer, chief of staff in Trump's first presidency. Mr. Lighthizer occupied this position of the trade representative in the first term, and Mr. Green has worked with him. He was essentially his protege. He's again, like Mr. Lighthizer, a China hawk. He's arguing for Congress to revoke Beijing's permanent normal trade relation status. And he also wants to impose new and higher tariffs on Chinese goods. So, I would say 3 out of these 4 are hawks, real hawks.
Prashant, many thanks for joining us. That's Trump's economy team. On India Business Hour, Godrej Enterprises launches a new brand logo after an amicable split of the Godrej Group into two entities. That and more when we return. Aircraft lessor Air Castle has withdrawn its insolvency plea against SpiceJet before the National Company Law Tribunal. The two parties mutually agreed upon settling a $23 million dispute for just $5 million. As part of the settlement, all ongoing litigation and disputes between Air Castle and SpiceJet now stand withdrawn from the appropriate forums. The Competition Commission of India has ordered a detailed investigation into Google following a complaint lodged by online gaming company Winzo Games. The complainant has alleged that Google has engaged in anti-competitive practices to discriminate against gaming companies. The CCI order highlights concerns about Google's policies that restrict the listing of real money gaming applications on the Google Play Store. Well, here's another exclusive. Aster DM Healthcare is set to be in advanced talks with Blackstone-owned care hospitals. Private equity continues to bet big on Indian healthcare. Rachna joins us now with more. Rachna, when can we expect this deal to go through? What are the contours?
Well, a deal is imminent between Aster DM Healthcare and Blackstone-owned care hospitals, marking a major consolidation in India's healthcare sector, and private equity interest in Indian healthcare is only increasing. CNBC TV18 had exclusively reported in the first week of August that Aster DM was in talks to expand its hospital network through care hospitals. Blackstone, which owns a 72.5% stake in care hospitals, and the Mopin family, holding 42% in Aster DM Healthcare, will be doing a share swap agreement to finalize this transaction. This deal will create a new entity with a leadership team comprising of executives from Blackstone and the Mopin family. Blackstone will hold 34% of the new entity. TPG will hold 11%. Now, TPG is already a stakeholder in care hospitals, and in the new entity, they will hold about 11%. And the Mopin family will hold about 23%. With each partner, that's Aster and Care, bringing a 5,000 bed capacity each to the table, will make a 10,000 bed capacity entity, being poised to significantly enhance scale and operations across India's healthcare landscape. This new entity will also be the second biggest hospital chain in the country. While both Aster DM and Care Hospitals are yet to provide an official comment, we have written to them. But tomorrow is Aster DM's board meeting with an agenda to discuss preferential share allotments. This signals that an announcement is likely imminent tomorrow. This move also highlights the growing interest of private equity and venture capital in India's healthcare sector. Blackstone's earlier acquisition of Care and Kim's Hospital marked its entry into the space, and other significant players are now following suit. CVC Capital, for instance, holds a majority stake in Healthcare Global, which is a cancer hospital, and now they're reportedly looking to sell their stake in HCG after 4 years of holding it. Similarly, KKR also holds a stake in JB Chemicals and Pharma, which is also now on the block. But KKR at the same time has been actively acquiring other companies. One of them was Bengaluru-based Healthium MedTech. So this clearly signals a rising interest in the Indian healthcare system. Now, last year, which was 2023, we saw a record $5.5 billion money coming in from PEVC into the healthcare space, which is up 25% from the previous year. Now, hospital revenues are projected to soar to $219 billion by 2027, more than doubling from 2021, driven by rising incidence of lifestyle diseases in the country, and that's what private equities are chancing upon as they look to enter the space.
Rachna, many thanks for joining us. Congress General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi Vadra made her debut in Parliament today. She took oath as a Lok Sabha MP while holding a copy of the Indian Constitution. Priyanka Gandhi Vadra won the by-election in Wayanad by a margin of over 4 lakh votes. The seat was previously held by her brother Rahul Gandhi, who chose to retain the Raebareli seat after the Lok Sabha elections. Both houses of Parliament adjourned today for the third day in a row without any significant businesses being transacted. Opposition MPs raised slogans seeking a discussion on the bribery charges against the Adani Group. The opposition is also demanding talks on the ongoing violence in Manipur and Uttar Pradesh's Sambhal. Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiran Rijiju accused the opposition of wasting Parliament's time.
The opposition wants to cooperate with the government on the bills that the government wants to pass. But in addition to those government bills, the issues of the people must be heard on the floor of the House. No discussion on Adani is listed. No discussion on Manipur is listed. No discussion on Sambal is listed.
Hemant Soren was sworn in as the Chief Minister of Jharkhand for the fourth time. The Jharkhand Mukti Morcha-led India bloc won 56 seats in the 81-member assembly in the state elections. Top opposition leaders, including the Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge, Lok Sabha opposition leader Rahul Gandhi, West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee and Samajwadi Party Chief Akhilesh Yadav were in attendance. Godrej Enterprises is starting a new innings after the group's various entities were split between cousins Adi Godrej and Jamshed Godrej, and it's doing it with a brand makeover. Shilpa Ranipeta reports that the new identity comes even as the group enters new areas.
This is what you will see the next time you come across a product or service from the Godrej Enterprises stable, which has a footprint across sectors including aerospace, defense, security, engineering, consumer durables and information technology. This brand refresh comes after the Godrej Group, the 127-year conglomerate, was split amicably into two entities, the Godrej Industries and Godrej Enterprises. Now, Godrej Industries is the entity that holds the listed companies like Godrej Industries, Godrej Consumer Products, Godrej Properties, etc. And this is spearheaded by Adi Godrej and Nadir Godrej. Godrej Enterprises, on the other hand, holds the unlisted entity Godrej & Boys, Godrej Infostech, among others, and this is spearheaded by Jamshed Godrej and Nayaka Holkar. But the company insists the old values that have made Godrej a household name will not change.
Shape of the logo hasn't changed for many decades, and that's the continuity. And the new color essentially is to talk about a new world, a new opportunity.
Reimagining consumer experience and looking at how we as the Godrej Enterprises Group can play a greater role in trying to influence preferences for more sustainable choices.
The old tricolour logo will continue to be used by Adi and Nadir Godrej run Godrej Industries. Godrej Enterprises meanwhile says it is on track to capture new opportunities in the areas it operates in. But while expansion is on the cards, the group, which houses only unlisted entities, says it has no immediate plans to tap the public for funds.
Our internal cash flows have been strong, and they have been able to take care of our needs of investment and in new businesses, etc. So at the moment, we don't feel that necessity of listing Godrej & Boys. I think in future, we will have to look at what opportunities there are for our businesses, and whether they will benefit by a listing, and especially if, go in for something large.
Godrej Industries and Godrej Enterprises have a 6-year non-compete agreement except in the real estate space. After 6 years, the two family groups can compete with each other, but entering the other group's business areas will have to be done without using the Godrej brand. So Godrej Enterprises is busy expanding its footprint in new areas like battery manufacturing.
We have invested in two startups. One is a battery technology. It's based on zinc and manganese, not lithium ion and sodium ion. It's a different chemistry. We have set up our pilot plant. We are in the process of launching it soon.
This is in keeping with Godrej's plans to focus on sustainability and increase revenues from green products to 50% by 2032. In Mumbai, Shilpa Ranipeta.
And with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. But before we go, have you ever wondered how the popular dairy milk chocolate is made? Well, CNBC TV 18 visited a Mondelez India plant to document the entire process of production, packaging and delivery. You can catch the full video on our YouTube page. We leave you with a sneak peek of nuts and bolts.
An idea is all you need to start a business. For you to succeed and scale in that business, what you need are a series of boring, non-glamorous, repetitive daily decisions. And that's exactly what this series is all about. The nuts and bolts of business success.